Greetings. Greetings, humans, people of Earth, animals, concepts, whatever you happen to be. You never know on the internet. Artificial intelligence, you are intelligent. Welcome. Anything, we've been just, looking for any kind of intelligence. Okay, that wasn't the point of the video. The video, okay, yeah. So, how to put this. I think a lot of people think of the nation as a family. I always kind of had that impression. I don't think I thought it up myself. And then later on, there's this George Lakoff. Now, he's a liberal linguist, admittedly so. He came up with this theory, has done some research, and has some evidence for it, but whatever. Um, that conservatives use a strict father family, is what he calls it. So a traditional family, and that liberals use a nurturant family model, and he advocates that. So he says, yeah, conservatives use a family. The nation is a family. The leaders are the parents, and that they have an advantage because everybody knows that paradigm, and that the progressives or liberals or whichever should use a nurturant or do use a nurturant family model and should come up with more metaphors working from that model, right? More ways of putting things when you write your script. And I'll be more explicit about that in a second. So he doesn't say that we shouldn't use a family model for the nation. He says that it's a difference between a nurturant or not. Now, this is where I think he goes wrong. Not that he is wrong. I think liberals and conservatives both use a family model, and the differences are in what they think of families. And the liberals are trying to change traditional families or whatever to some degree, or don't have faith in the traditional family, but they still know that model a lot. But anyway, that's just George Lakoff's idea. I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that people use the family model and how liberals and conservatives both derive their ideas from their versions of this model. However, I think that it's bad to use the family as a nation as a model, nurturant, strict, or otherwise. Furthermore, I think that Lakoff is a little bit wrong in his theory in that the nurturant family model and the strict father family model is really trying to pretend one model is two models. In other words, in the traditional family, there is a strict father and a nurturant mother. And in some actual families that believe in that, there is it's the mother that's strict and the father that's nurturing. And guess what? In most families, they're both nurturing and strict at various degrees. But there's something to be said for the fact that the technique is to have a good cop, bad cop. You might have two parents that are both nurturing, and they believe they have to be strict to raise their child right, and so they split those duties. One strict in one area and another strict in another area. I would say that's the most common. Or one is always the strict one and one always gets to be the nurturant one, but really they're discussing things behind the scenes. So the real problem is that people think of a family when they're thinking about the politics. Now, being explicit about the kinds of ways this metaphor or any metaphor or model turns into a metaphor in speeches and otherwise, talking about immigration, a lot of people have said to me, and also I just see their comments to other people in these threads, um, that would you want to open the borders? Would you leave your front door unlocked? No comment. But would you want them in your living room? Would you invite them into your living room? As if the nation was the family home, right? That's where that kind of speech reveals how somebody's thinking about something. And if they thought about it in a different metaphor, then they're translating it into a metaphor for the benefit of others. Either way, it shows that there's this metaphor. Now, to me, being a literal person, I always thought that was weird. I didn't necessarily interpret it as a metaphor that the family. It just seemed weird. It's like if people coming into my country is not like people coming into my living room. Um, if an illegal or an undocumented alien that is also a criminal in their own country and in our country, not from coming in, but from doing some actual crime. Um, if they're in, I'm supposed to imagine they're in my living room when I think about this. And yet, if they're in my living room, there's a lot of native born criminals that would also be in this living room, right, in my nation. So both of those things make me uncomfortable. And if I'm supposed to take it somehow literally or whatever, translated into a literal reality, the fact is, it would matter to me the fact that less undocumented people do crimes in the United States per capita than native born. But really, that's a big red herring, right? Because the point is uh, really that in the nation is a family metaphor. The problem is the citizens are the children. It doesn't matter if you're nurturing your children or what. Now, a lot of Trump supporters, for example, Diamond and Silk, are talking a lot about Trump's being a man. It's his job to protect us. Don't you want to be protected? I saw it on Fox News. Don't you want to be protected? That is protected by the strong slash strict father. Strict in possibly a good or neutral sense. A good sense. Not necessarily abusive, just he's supposed to be that rock or whatever, and right from wrong and whatever. And that person's supposed to protect you with strength. Right now, the conservatives and Republicans, the categories are getting pointless, but you just let me be loosely whatever, you'll see what I mean. They're advocating this protection through the strength, for example, of, my dad's going to beat you up because I'm his little girl if you mistreat me. And then, but the conservatives complain about the safe spacey kids that want to be protected in a nurturing way or their feelings protected. And it's one versus the other. Really, these are both part of the traditional family and you're supposed to do both. But I don't believe that. I don't want either. Right? And I'm not saying I don't want a military or anything, but I don't want daddy to protect me with his strength. I want us to join together. I pay taxes. I might join the military. If not me, someone else like me. And maybe they don't pay as much taxes, or maybe they pay just as much taxes, and all of the permutations. I want us to cooperate for our common defense. I don't want daddy. I want somebody to take care of it for me. I'm willing to be involved with the thought process and everything, and also not necessarily to be the expert, but to help judge whether this general is to be trusted or this president is to be trusted to promote the general and so on. Okay? Now, the metaphor is too technical for people as we are now, evidently. But it is just that we're an organism. Not a cellular organism, but an organism made out of organs. A liver, a brain. White blood cells are like our police. Okay, a liver is like the CDC. Um, a the brain is like the branches of government, and the nerves go out right into every tissue and respond to hormones, which are the votes of the people, and so on and so forth. And this is a healthier metaphor for conservatives, in my view, for conservatives, liberals, whatever. The cellular thing is bad because a liver cell is split off from another liver cell, and it just has to be a liver cell, and everything has its place, and it's a little too genetically determined. I think that human beings are, in this metaphor, either we're all neurons, or possibly we're some sort of we're a cell that can join whatever, we're a stem cell or something that can join any of the organs. It breaks down at that level, but it doesn't have any problems at the organistic level of livers and whatnot, where you can choose what organ you're a part of, or you can just remain in the circulation of the system, like the artists. But the nice thing about this metaphor is that there's a little element of all sides of politics. So, for example, certain organs in the body, the brain is famous, but others as well, get certain nutrients in certain resource deprived situations. The brain would get oxygen. There's other things that probably would get oxygen. But when things are okay, you never see the brain just, if it did, hog all the oxygen and deprive the rest of the body of oxygen so we could have extra oxygen to just, I don't know, blow out its ears or something. It's not even designed to be able to do that, because that's pointless. And they're in this balance where, yeah, if you're running out of oxygen, it's in your body's best interest to give the oxygen to the brain, even if you're going to lose the tip of your finger or whatever. But when things are going well, you never see it hogging it to the point where something like that would happen. It's not in the best interest of the brain. Its whole purpose is to make everything else work out. So, compared to that, you can see our society's not working so great. And for the libertarians, yeah, this obviously can happen naturally, given time, hundreds of millions of years. I think with our conscious mind, we might be able to shorten the amount of time it takes to come into that symbiosis. On the other hand, it obviously is not to be created, or rather indefinitely maintained, with force, stricture, and boundaries. That might play a role, like Nietzsche would say. Well, it plays a role that comes around, but really, it's just it's a model to use as a metaphor for how we can interact, what parts of society we're going to take part in, including the free radicals or the things that don't conform. Some people want to conform, and they could become accountants, and they're like the, I don't know, protein regulation part of your biology. Or another metaphor. I would be interested if anybody has other metaphors. The nation is blank. The nation is a boat. The nation is a building. The superintendent is the president. Whatever. That's a random. Um, just not the family. It's not that I'm against families. Families are families. And there's a lot of use of the family metaphor. I mean, pets could be a part of your family. Friends, ohana, the idea of ohana, Hawaiian idea of ohana. Uh, it's not a bad thing. I'm not bad mouthing families. It's just that a nation is made up of adults. The kids are kind of like a subset that's dealt with through the adults. The actual nation and the deciding factor and everything else is a bunch of adults. None of them are as children to another part. Oh, black acid. See, that's why I'm happy to still happy. Uh, Black acid lizard. I agree. The nation is an organism and it does have a cancer. I don't know what free high air for dirt means, Juden free, but it's probably racist. Anyway, cheers.